I want to know what you're doing in the store at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, if I tell you it's my store, then what?
Then show me that it's your store.
I do not have to show you nothing. If I tell you it's my store, then what?
Yema Khalif, the owner of fashion startup Yema, and his wife and co-owner Hawi Awash were working late at their store in downtown Tiburon, California, along with a friend visiting from Washington, D.C. According to Mr. Khalif, a Tiburon police car drove around the block 3 times, at one point stopping across from the store for about a minute. After conducting this surveillance, the officer parked and began to approach the store.
Hey guys, I've never seen you open this late.
Yeah.
Are you just restocking?
No, we're just doing our thing.
Just doing your thing? What's your thing?
What's up?
Well, I've never seen anyone in the store this
Is there
late.
a problem?
No, sir, there's no problem. I've never seen anyone in the store this late. I wanted to come check in and make sure
There's
everything's
no
okay.
problem going on.
Why are you here so late?
It does not matter.
It does matter.
To who?
To me.
Why?
Because the store's never open this late.
Is it your store?
No.
Call your supervisor and let him come here.
He's already on his way.
Okay, so when he's here, you let me know.
No. Why don't you come out here for me?
The officer orders Mr. Khalif to step out of the store, which would constitute a detainment by show of authority. As we've discussed many times on ATA, in order to detain an individual, police officers must have a reasonable suspicion that the individual is involved in criminal activity. In the 1974 case of People versus Lathan, the Second Appellate District of the California Court of Appeals determined that a police officer did not have reasonable suspicion to detain an individual who was behaving in an unusual but not overtly criminal way. The court stated that not only must an officer have a rational suspicion that some activity out of the ordinary is or has taken place, but the officer must also have some suggestion that the activity is related to crime. Finally, the court concluded that it was the duty of the police officer to keep the individual engaged in unusual behavior under observation, but that the officer was not entitled to detain the individual.
I'm not going to tell you anything. You're going to bring your supervisor? You bring your supervisor.
He's coming right now. He's right here.
Supervisor, how are you doing?
That's right. How are you?
You came 3 of you guys. What's going on? What's the problem? There's 3 black people in the store. What's the problem with that?
So it's 1 o'clock in the morning. There's 3 people in the store.
There's 3 black people in the store. 3 o'clock in the morning. What's the problem?
There's 3 people.
There's 3 black people in the store. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What's the problem?
It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Yes.
you never have any activity at the store at that time.
Okay. I said
1 o'clock in the morning. This
Okay.
street's closed up at 9 o'clock at night. There's
Okay.
nobody here.
Okay, so what's the problem?
That's the problem.
Okay.
This street closes at 9 o'clock at night, and there's
Okay.
never anybody in here.
Okay.
This isn't regular business hours. There's no
Okay.
customers in there.
Okay.
Is it your store? That's all we want to know.
Like, you want to know why?
I want to know what you're doing in the store at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, if I tell you it's my store, then what?
Then show me that it's your store.
I do not have to show you nothing. If I tell you it's my store, then what?
Sergeant Blassie argues that the officers are justified in their demands because the stores in the area are closed at night, and the sergeant's experience as an officer would likely play a role in the court's ruling. Through the years, the level of reverence courts have given to officer experience has grown, and there are many court decisions that deal with this issue. For example, in the 1981 case of United States versus Cortez, the Supreme Court stated that trained law enforcement officers can combine objective facts that are meaningless to the untrained with permissible deductions from those facts to form a legitimate basis for suspecting a particular individual of a crime. Then, in the 1996 case of Ornelas versus United States, the Supreme Court determined that a reviewing appellate court should give due weight to inferences drawn from facts both by local judges and by local police, who view the facts through the lens of their experience and expertise. Most recently, in the 2020 case of Kansas versus Glover, the Supreme Court held that officers are not required to point to specific training materials or field experiences justifying their reasonable suspicions, and that they can rely on knowledge gained outside of their law enforcement training and experience in determining probable cause. However, even the high level of deference courts give to officer experience is not a rubber stamp for all police decisions, and it is unlikely that any court would find that Sergeant Blassie had a reasonable suspicion that Mr. Khalif was engaged in criminal activity.
Yeah, exactly. So it's my store. So what?
Do you want us to look out for your community,
I do
or
want
do you want us to let anybody just walk in here at 2 o'clock in the morning and steal all your stuff?
I want you to look out for my community.
You sure?
Yeah,
Because you don't sound like you're very grateful.
No,
You sound like you're very defensive.
No, I do not sound defensive.
Really?
Hey.
Come on now.
Calm
you're
down.
being very defensive.
No, calm down.
My officer is doing his job.
Your officer's not doing his job.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, listen.
Yes, he is.
Listen.
He is doing his job.
Man, that's exactly what I did. I knocked and asked if you guys were
Yeah, but
restocking.
the alarm go off, though.
I didn't know you had an alarm system, sir. I just got here.
Sir, we're supposed
just
to
drove
look
by.
out for this neighborhood.
There's a
That's what
sign
we
here
do.
that says Red Roof Security.
Those
What do
are
you
a
do
dime a
with that?
dozen, and half of those aren't even half of those don't have active alarms with them.
Okay. All right. So I want to wrap up this conversation. We're wasting time. So what's going on? What's up? What's the next step?
Prove
Can
to
you
us
just-
that you have keys
This
or
is my store.
communicate with
Okay,
the
wait,
house.
There you go. That's a perfect thing.
I just asked for
I
that.
know. Okay.
You know
look,
what? Put
wait.
the key in the door, and we're out of here.
Put the key in the door?
Put the key in the door.
I asked you
If
if
this
you had
is your
keys.
store, you have the
That
key in the
is,
door.
I'm telling you.
There you go.
Stand back, please.
There you
Do
go.
not raise your voice at me.
Put
okay?
the key in the door,
Don't
we're
raise
outta
your
here.
voice at me. Just chill. I'm going to put my key in the door.
That's his store.
What's that?
That's his store.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
sir.
That's all I need to know. Thank you. See ya.
After